we begin a new maime. This is page 41. It says in the word that ends the Parsha Behar, Es Shabseisai tishmeru o migdoshi tiro. Shabseisai is two Shabbos, it's like the Yirda says in the Talmud Bavli. The Rabbi Yochanan said, if Yidden will observe two Shabbos, Mashiach will come. What does this mean? Doesn't mean two Shabbos, it means two levels of Shabbos. That's in every Shabbos. Like it says, Oilas Shabbos b'Shabbatei. And it says also brought in the Zoyar, Bereshis, that there's two Shabbos. It says it on the Pasuk, Tishmero, that there's Shabbos Tato, Shabbos Ilo, and this is what it means, is Tishmero. With this, the Alter Rebbe answers this statement from the Talmud Bavli and the Talmud Yerushalmi. The Talmud Yerushalmi says if they would keep one Shabbos, Ben David would come. It's not a statement to the Bavli. It says stay Shabbos because it's one Shabbos that has in itself two levels of Shabbos, and we'll understand what is pshat in the Zehar of the two Shabbosim to understand what Shabbos. What Shabbos? Says the Alter Rebbe, Shabbos is aliyah soilomes. The worlds go up, and all the Torah ma'asim tovim that you did a whole week are elevated on Shabbos. Then the Alter Rebbe says every day of the week has our order of Shabbos. That's why we say in Shir Shal Yom HaYom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos, and it's elevated. What's the Shabbos of every day when I yidavin that all is Torah ma'asim tovim are elevated? The Eilas Tomid, because there's aliyah soilomes. When he yidavins, that's when he yidavins, the Yitzhar is more subdued. Just like Shabbos is called Eilas Shabbos, aliyah soilomes b'Shabbos, so the tefillah of every day elevates that day, and then they're all together elevated to the higher worlds on Shabbos. So we have to understand what is pshat aliyah soilomes. Where are you going up to? It says Moli Kolor, it's Kavedish, Hashem is here. There's no reason to take a jet, aliyah for Shabbos, to go up to the Rebishter. And we also say in Oleinu ki Hashem Molikim b'Shamayim ma'avlos mitoch hatineit. And the Zohar says, Leisasar ponu minei. So if the Rebishter is everywhere, what do you have an aliyah to? The Tzemach Tzedek brings a medrash from Pasha Shmos. Why did the Rebishter come when he revealed himself to Moshe in the desert from a bush, a thorny bush? Says the medrash, L'lam dal she'ei mokim poni v'lo yishchina afil tzne. So what does it mean? Aliyah se'elam, it's where you're being elevated to. And the pasuk says, Eilas Shabbos, yet you're Eila l'maylo. So we have to understand what's the pshat from the neshama coming down in this world. Even though it's a great yirda, but it's a tzerech aliyah to go higher. We have to understand how can you go higher than what a yid is. A yid is very high, like it says, Yisrael Olam Machshava. Before he was created, he was part of Machshava of the Eibishter. So where is he going higher? He's higher than Malachim that it says Burach Pif Kol Tzvam. They were created with Hashem's Diבור. Just like when a person talks, it doesn't affect his neshama. He could talk a lot of Diburim, so as all the Elomis and the Malachim and the Chayis is only our order. But the Yid is all of Machshava, even though Machshava is also Kiloch Hoshi. And he could think a lot of things. And so the Machshava is also Kiloch Hoshi, like it says, Ani Avai Lo Shonisi. But there's a mile in a Yid that he comes to Machshava, not from דיבור, because דיבור is Levush HaChitzon. You don't always wear it. You put on a Levush. You put on your coat when you have to go outside. דיבור, when you want, you speak. and sometimes you don't speak. But even when you're at home alone, you're dressed with your body. You can't stop thinking. It's nitzchi, like the nefesh is nitzchi. And that's why the Elam and Ivroim that are created from Diבור, created from Yom Sheshes Shemei B'Reish. And then there was Eis L'Dabe, and then they will return to be nothing. Like the Gemara says, Shit Alfishtin Havayoma, that the world only exists for 6,000 years. And then there'll be Chad Cheruv, the world will cease to exist for 1,000 years. And the Tzemach Tzedek brings a raya from Medrash that the earth has a Hagbol. It says, Kol Yemei Ha'aretz. The 4 seasons will never stop. That means there'll be a time when there won't be a Ha'aretz. Kol Yemei Ha'aretz. Because it's from דיבור, so sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So like it says, Shleimei HaMelech says, Eis L'daber ve'eis lachseis. Just like there's time to speak, there's time to be quiet. Shom Esrol Machshava, like it says in Breshis Rabbah on the Posuk, Im HaMelech Bimlachte Yosef Shom, the Yidden were sitting with the Eibishter. The Eibishter asked the Yidden if he should create the world. That's why they're Nitzchim, Machshava is Nitzchim. And it says about Seichel and Machshava, they're trained lo misparshin. Like a snail, that's one with its cover. So Yidden on a very high madrega. They're on the madrega of Machshava. Even though there's different levels in the neshamas, and there's 600,000 general neshamas, and every general neshama of these 600,000, says Arizal, is divided into many branches, and Arizal says someplace each one of the 600,000 divides into another 600,000. The Alter Rebbe says, even though it's connected with 600,000 letters in the Torah, even though in the Torah there's no 600,000 letters, and also it's about 305,000 letters. But there's something which is called Oisius HaHemshech, that it's like an akuda, like a yud, is a patach. Or like he says here, komatz is an aleph, and achirik is a yud, and is a raya for Rashi Ksubas, by Yenochem, Kilu Ksiv, Yena'achem, the aleph makes a patach. We don't know which one the Kudus is counted, which one is not counted. But there is the 600,000 letters, and you have your letter in Torah. And that, I guess, makes the difference between one neshama and another neshama. Since Ayid is connected to Torah, and he's connected to Machshava, and he's everlasting, could there be higher than that? You're connected with the Eibishter's Machshava. You're connected with Torah. You're everlasting. You're Ima Melech Bimlachte Yosh L'Shom. Where are you crawling higher? Interesting to know, the Alter Rebbe, this question asks every 2 pages in Likkutei Torah, because after all the answers, it's a strong question, a question from the heart. Why did we go? What are we doing here? To make the question stronger, Alter Rebbe says, "Berachamecho Rabbi Merachim Aleinu." We ask Hashem every day to have great rachmanis on us, because we went down from such a lofty level. God's machshava, that's totally higher in the world. We come here in an animalistic soul, in a goof, separate from the Eibishter. Why did he do this? What did he want to accomplish? So he says, we know that Yedid Zut Tzedek Aliyah, but what's the Aliyah higher than the Hashem's Machshava and Seichel and Torah? What could be higher? So he says in the Kitzur that this first Perek is talking about the 2 Shabbos and the Aliyah of Shabbos. To understand the Aliyah of Shabbos, we first have to understand what's the aliyah that happens to a neshama through being in this world. So it goes further to understand this aliyah that the neshama has by being in this world. We'll understand it from what it says in davening. We say Shabbos. The Neshomas are called Kadeshim, where we say Kadeshim Chachasela. The Neshomas, they say, first we say the Malachim. Malachim say Kodesh, Baruch and Yimlach. And then we say, O Kadeshim Bechol Yem, the Neshomas say Kadeshim. The Malachim have a guf, and the Malachim are, like it says, different sizes for the Malachim. One Malach is 500 years to walk the size of a Malach. One Malach is a third of the world. It's Mokim if they're Mokim and they're Zman, and they only have a set time to say Shira. But Neshamas are higher than Zman and Mokim, they're Kedeshim. Way they're Lamaila, they're higher than Guf, they're higher than Mokim. They're not B'chinas Zman, they say constantly Kedusha, B'chol Yem Yalucha Selo B'li Hefsek. Like it says, Yelchu Michael Choyil, and their Hiluch and their Aliyah through Ashir. And Ukadeshim Loshen Rabbi, there's different levels, there's Goveya Me'al Goveya, and Yalucha Selo. Because there, Yahalalucha comes because of their understanding and pleasure in Getzlichkeit. And this is Gan Eden. Like the Gemara says, it's good to suffer in Gehenna in order to come, it's worth it to go to Elam Haba. Even the level of Gan Eden HaTachtein. There's many Madregas, even though in Svarim in general, there's only two levels, Gan Eden HaTachtein and Gan Eden HaElyon. There's many, many, many more levels. It's Bili Hefsik. Imagine Avraham Avinu. It's 3,700 years in Gan Eden and it's constantly going higher. So after all these lofty madregas, millions and billions of levels, and the Neshama goes higher and higher. This, the davening says, Beide Kedeshim Yishtabach Simcha. It's all Simcha. All the Kedeshim. Everything is only Simcha. This Selo is only Zivashkin, only Ein. It's all like the Eitz Chaim says, Ein Sof. And it's nothing compared to the Etzem of the Eibishter. All the Aliyahs in Gan Eden doesn't touch only Shimcha and only a Ha'orah from Shimcha. Understand this, the Alter Rebbe says, like Eid Hashem and Shameir La'oretz V'Ladorim. So the light of the sun is only Ha'orah, and it's nothing compared to the essence of the sun. And there's no difference to the sun if it gets to the earth or the clouds stop it. Or you don't let the light of the sun in, you shut the windows. It doesn't affect the sun. So the whole Eid Ein Sof is only Ha'orah. This could be understood to Kedeshim. This is the pshat what we said before in davening Yishtabach Simcha. Because what the Zohar calls Ein is also called shame. Like it says, the famous Pirkei de Rabbi Lezer, till that before the Eibusher created the world, there was Hashem, Ushmei HaGodel Bilvad. And this is all to explain us that the whole chayis of the world is not negayah to the atzmis of the Eibusher. But every medrash, Pirkei de Rabbi Lezer, and every Zohar speaks in different terminologies. But it all means the same thing. Like it says by Shleimei HaMelech, Vayedaber Shleishes Alofi Moshe. And also in the Pasuk, it's also called shame. And explains a little more to see the connection from shame and eid. When you call someone with the name Avram, this doesn't detect and affect the etzem of the person. He doesn't need the letters of the name to live. Nevertheless, we see that in the letters of the name, there's the highest of the person. Like it says by Adam Arisha when they brought him all the animals and they said, what's the name? So it's connected. And it's not Shem Haskomi. They decided to call him Sheir Chamer because that's what they decided to give him a nickname. It's his real name, it's his Chayis. Like it says, Barichis in Tanya in the Yichud ve'emunah. Perek Aleph, these letters are the Keli to the Chayis HaMetzumtzum. That come from the Asorim HaAmores. So we're going to, now today is going to explain how shame is connected to earth. Didn't show that before it came down into the guf, when it was on his loftiest levels, not called shame. Only when it comes down in the guf, it's called shame. So the shame is only mikasha, the neshama with the guf. And the little chayis from the neshama that comes with the guf is in the shame. Reuven is chayis, is reish, aleph connected with riyah, like it says. In the Medrash and Parashas Shemais about Reuven, which is riyah. So the Medrash says, Roi, Roisi. So Leah understood that the Shadish of her son Reuven is connected with riyah. So this is the idea of shame. This is after a person's mitzamtzum to come down lower. It's shemay. He doesn't need a shame, and only to be migala to other people, he needs the shame. And even when you mizgala to other people, you're not mizgala ba'atzmi and sichle. So we see that these letters of the shame is chumniim, physical letters. There's a little bit of life force that's to be mechaya the guf. Like we know that the chayis that comes down to the guf is very minuscule compared to the etzem and neshama. It's only agile aorta and it's connected with the shame. That's why since the shame is only aorta mitzumtzum from the etzem and neshama that comes down into the body, like we know not the whole neshama comes down to the body. That's why shame is only when the neshama comes down into the body. But before it comes down to the guf, this order that comes down later in the shame was totally bottled in its essence and in the neshama that's much greater, so it's not a shame. So shame is order. It's not, and this is what he started to explain in the Maimer, that shame is also order. It's not negated to the essence. The Neshama doesn't need a shame. He only needs a shame when he comes down here into the guf and the it's that guf. This is also by the Rabbi, so the Rabbi Lomes, say Lomes is only Shmei, because the Atzmus, they couldn't, it would be too much for them. They couldn't exist. And even Shmei, the Pasuk says, Ki niskov Shmei levadei, it's higher and nisko. It's only Hey Daleh Shemoy. And this is what we say with Shimcha Kodesh, that even Shimcha is also two Kodesh, and only order could come down. Like Ha'oreh, the Ha'oreh could come down in the world. This is what it says, Lechu Chazumi Falis Hashem Asher Shom Shamis Boren Zog Digimorim Broches Afikin Shamis Elo Shemesh. The Eibishter has many Shemis. You know, it says made in the Nevuchim. The Shem Ho'etzem and Shem HaPula, the essential names of the Eibishter. Then there's Shem HaPula, because the Eibishter couldn't give life from the Shem HaGadol himself has to come down to many madreges. And every madrege that gives life to the lower madrege is only Shem, and they're all from the Eibishter. And this is what it says in Egeres HaKodesh, the famous Egeres HaKodesh, that the Alter Rebbe said before he passed away. It says over there that there's Kav and Haorah Sakav and Haorah the Haorah. And Haorah the Haorah the Haorah. These are all these levels. And that's why there's Shinuyim in Elomes, depending from which level, if you get from Haorah or Haorah the Haorah, Haorah the Haorah the Haorah. I heard from my Chaver, Mendel Tzibel, that he heard from his father, the Melech, the Rabbi would learn Likkutei Torah. And every month or two, he would learn over again a Sakedesh Simechov. He says, now every time, the more you learn, you understand I get a Sakedesh better. So this I get a Sakedesh. Then the Tzemach Tzedek says, look, in Pardes Shara Shemes, there could be many people have the same name, and nevertheless, they're totally different people. It could be a simple person, learned person, kind person. So he says, look over there for the reason that even though they're the same name, it comes from a different source. But the idea, what we get from all of this, that the name Shem is nothing for the Atzmi. Efes nechshav, and this is what David HaMelech says in Tehillim Kapitel Memvot. Hu chazu mif'ali savayis, see the wonders of God, that all the words are shamis is shamis, like I said before, and also shemomo. It's nothing. Pustum vis connected to the essence of the Eibush, because the whole life force is from shamis. Kibi yoavayit surilomi. And this is what we say, Beiri Kadeshim, Yishtabach Shimcha. There's Kadeshim that Mahal the Eibush are always going higher and higher for 3,700 years. It's Shimcha. They're Beiri Kadeshim, they're B'Yeshmiyayim. Because we know what Iyov says about Chochmah Me'ayin Timotze. Chochmah compared to higher is not the way Chochmah lower, which is Ilav V'Holol by a person who has Seichel Midas Machshava Dibiru Meister. So the Seichel goes into the Diבור, etc. That's Yesh Mi Yesh, and the Ilo gets into the Olo, and so it's Ishtalsus the Ilo V'Holol and Atzilus Chochmah lower. Like it says in the Zohar Bereshis, it says Kulam Chochmah, see, so everything comes from Chochmah. First, they were all created as one in Chochmah. They were included there. And this is what it says in Pirkei Avos, Mayim Echad Yochli Boris is Chochmah, where there everything is included. And then it came down lower and lower, and it became separated into a world. First, the Eibush had Machshava Achas Bereshis Bora Tait, Stop Yenus Menazil B'Chuchmas Sabora. And then it came down later into separate beings from the 9 other sayings in the Sheshes Yomim. So Chochmah lower is Yesh Mi Yesh, Ilo and Olo, but Chochmah from higher says Iyov Yesh Mi Ayin Mamish, because the Eibush is much greater than Chochmah. So in order, Chochmah should be created, it's a B'nei Yesh Mi Ayin. This is what it says, Beiri Kadesh. Even the Shabbos are all of Machshava, like he said, not in Diבור. That's why they're called Kadeshim, because they're Madregis and Chochmah, that's called Kadesh, just like a son. It's created from the father's brain. Nevertheless, Beiri Kadeshim Yishtabach Simcha the Yesh Mi Ayin. We have our answer. That's why they came down into a goof. They should have an aliyah to go to Ayin, which is higher than Chochmah. Chochmah is fine. And I'll explain further in the Maimer that the only way to accomplish this is through coming down in a goof. Kitze. The Beiri Kadeshim and the Shomas. It's all from Shimcha, which is our order. Just like a name of a person is no erech, there's etzem. And this is the creation. Chochmah is me'ayin timotze. Chochmah is shimcha, and that's why it's created. Yesh me'ayin, then higher. We'll continue tomorrow to understand what's the aliyah for the neshama higher.